What if you could race through some of the most memorable chase scenes in movie history, playing as iconic characters from classic films? Today, we're combining the excitement of these unforgettable movie moments with one of the greatest racing games ever, Mario Kart. We'll break down gameplay mechanics, reveal an epic character roster, and explore potential tracks for this crossover. To start, what's the gameplay experience gonna feel like? The Mario Kart formula hasn't really changed despite being out for more than 30 years, so I'll borrow those elements for the game. Let's start by including the leading factor of broken friendships, item boxes. I can see these scattered across tracks to give players a power-up or weapon to sabotage their opponents. Based on the movies I've picked, here are some items I'd love to see in addition to the traditional Mario Kart ones. A few of my favorites are the Star Wars laser turret, which shoots down projectiles, King Kong's jungle vines, which pull on nearby racers, slowing them down, and the spiny shell from Mad Max. This gives your kart spikes for plowing down other racers. There are countless iconic rides we've seen on the big screen, so to keep things balanced, all racers will stay on the ground, with air vehicles at a low hover. Also, some of these karts would take up the entire screen if I kept them true to size, so I'll also scale them down. As for the rest of the game mechanics like drifting, I'd stick with Mario Kart's casual approach. I've always found the battle mode of Mario Kart needing more spikes, and because battle royale games are so popular these days, I think a fun addition to the battle category of this game is Kart Color Switch. For those who haven't played this, vehicles are placed on colored platforms. When a color is announced, racers drive to the matching platform before the others disappear, eliminating anyone not on the correct color. Last player standing wins. I can see this being a fun break from the intense racing with the same level of chaos. Now that we know how the game's gonna work, let's pick our racers next. We're building a roster of 13 characters, so besides introducing each one, I'll be giving them a special ability inspired by their role in the film. And of course, I'll share a vehicle with some basic stats. First up, this movie shook up the superhero genre with its dark aesthetic and notable performances. We're going to Gotham for the rich man who turns vigilante and fights the evil clown. Introducing Batman as the first racer. The Batmobile has to be one of the most iconic vehicles in movie history, which makes it a perfect fit for this game. Here's some stats that I think go well with this one. For simplicity, I'm only using 4 categories from a scale of 1 to 10, and because any of these racers can of course race in any vehicle, I'm not going to count the customizable parts nor the driver in calculating these stats. You should be able to pick up my vision though. It's a durable ride designed for high-speed pursuits, but it'll take a moment to reach its top speed. I see it being larger than most karts, so turns are going to be challenging. If you want something with more agility, I do have a solution for you. I saved his ability because it actually has to do with his vehicle. So as a nod to one of my favorite movies, The Dark Knight, any vehicle Bruce uses can transform into the Bat Pod for 10 seconds. It's gonna be pretty OP. Yeah, if I see someone pulling up like this, I'm going the other way. Next, we're touching on a movie that used to be all about illegal street racing. I can barely keep up with this franchise because there's been so many titles, and after seeing some of the trailers, I'm not even sure what it's about anymore. But the first movie was centered around racing, car heists, and family.
Plus, I made the mistake of sleeping with his sister.
Fast and Furious has lots of fun high-speed chases and remains well known to this day, just like Mario Kart. At the beginning, we had Paul Walker playing the everyman Brian O'Connor. He's the defining character, and to me, it feels like Mario of this movie, so we're adding him as number 2. Brian's racing expertise carries into the game with his advanced drift ability that allows him to perform an extended drift that maintains speed and gives him an extra boost when completing it. We're also going to bring his easily recognizable Nissan Skyline GTR into the game. For street racing, quick acceleration is crucial, so the GTR is going to be the best at that. It also makes sense for this to have a high top speed. Balancing it out, the handling will be slightly above average, and the weight is going to offer stability without being too heavy. I think while the car seems overpowered, people are going to forget the handling not being as good, leading them to spin out on turns. But if you could handle the power this car has, just like I'd imagine in real life, drifting in this car would be, chef's kiss. Our next pick has a size that should prevent it from fitting most vehicles. Our oldest movie of the roster features this giant ape who was captured on Skull Island and brought to New York City as a spectacle. Our misunderstood giant, King Kong, is the first non-human pick to race. Leading into how people perceive him, let's give King Kong the ability Ape Rage, where he glows red and temporarily increases in strength. This allows him to smash through obstacles and knock back nearby racers. Since the climax of the movie involves Kong fighting biplanes at the top of the Empire State Building, let's use them as his vehicle. The Helldiver would be a light kart with excellent speed, but it will definitely be tossed around by heavier builds. This vehicle brings me back to Diddy Kong racing days, so anyone who's familiar with that will enjoy this refresh. Now that we've met our first group of racers, I've actually organized them all into my version of Mario Kart's cups, and each one comes with courses inspired by the characters' movies that they're in. Also, each Grand Prix is gonna have a connecting theme, so let's figure out where we're racing. For my baby park players who want pure aesthetics and minimal challenge, the City Cup is for you. The most difficult part of this cup is going to be the non-playable vehicles on the road, but other than that, you should be fine. Making your way through the bustling traffic of the city and towards the Empire State Building, along with King Kong swinging through skyscrapers too, this is the Concrete Jungle. Next up is Tokyo from Fast and Furious. Let's be honest, I've included this track for the Teriyaki Boys song. And rounding out the group, you'll be racing in the night, weaving through the streets of Gotham City from Batman. And that was the City Cup. Let's continue with another round of movie drivers. This character is going to be one of the more popular choices in the roster. The movie, being every nerd's wet dream, follows a young boy who groups up with a bunch of people who can pew pew to fight the evil Galactic Empire. The chief enforcer of this empire is our fourth racer, Darth Vader. We're gonna use his Force Choke ability in this game, where he'll be able to use it on a racer within a short range from him. His victim gets lifted out of their vehicle and is choked for a couple seconds before being released. Taking inspiration from his TIE fighter in the movie, we'll add his prototype, the TIE Advanced X1. This fighter has a great balance between speed and handling, especially for its size. Downside is that it'll take a little bit longer to get to its maximum speed. We're dipping into the horror side with this next racer. Going extraterrestrial again, but not in a good way, we find ourselves at this film involving a boat crew. It's a suspenseful battle for survival against this terrifying alien. The film's protagonist and officer aboard the boat is that bitch. Ellen Ripley joins as number 5 in the cast. In the movie sequel, Ellen uses a motion tracker for sensing the xenomorphs. So we're gonna give this a Mario Kart twist with the detector ability. This highlights obstacles on the track and gives racers a more accurate reading of the time they'll take for objects to hit them. Ellen will bring the ship she's connected to, the Narcissus Shuttle. The Narcissus Shuttle. The escape ship prioritizes durability over agility. It's not the fastest in initial acceleration, and the handling is average. Staying in space, we're meeting a new friend. The 1982 sci-fi classic tells the heartwarming story of this cutesy at the time alien who gets stranded on Earth and becomes friends with this wee lad. And it's up to Elliot's gang to get this little meatball home while avoiding the ops. The sixth racer joining the party is E.T. I don't remember watching this movie fully, but a memorable detail was E.T.'s glowing finger, so let's incorporate that into his ability. E.T.'s glow allows him to recover from any status condition when activated. Hate getting struck by lightning? Well, you'll love E.T. His ride comes from probably the most iconic moment in cinematic history, the flying bike. This bike is made for maneuvering, perfect for tight turns and avoiding obstacles. A high acceleration will get you quickly up to speed, but make sure you don't get hit, or else. While this isn't a choice I'd recommend for new players, it'll be useful for the more challenging tracks like the ones in this next cup. For my casual players who want a zero gravity challenge, here's the Space Cup. We'll begin with E.T.'s moon ride, having you in the forest, but then you ascend into space, followed by the Death Star from A New Hope, which will have you reliving the Rebels' mission to destroy this massive weapon. And lastly, the Alien Space Station, where you drive through an abandoned space station with tight corridors, bursts of alien acid, and floating debris. With this next group of racers, we're bending reality. James Cameron directed this film about a regular schmegular woman who's targeted by Arnold Schwarzenegger, aka the Terminator, who's sent from the future to kill her. So our seventh driver is gonna be this hunk of bolts. The Terminator uses its 45 long slide as an ability in game. This allows it to fire blasts at opponents, possibly knocking them off track. The Harley Davidson from the second movie is super memorable, so let's use that as the Terminator's wheels. The bike has a strong and reliable build, fitting for the big boy, but its trade-off is agility, so I could see the Harley being more suitable for battle modes. It's almost impossible to knock it off course though, so I wouldn't count this out entirely for races. To me, there's no such thing as too much sci-fi, so let's continue down this road with the next movie. Reality was destroyed in this movie set in a dystopian future. This computer hacker joins a rebellion against the machines who trapped humanity in this diabolical version of The Sims. The mentor everyone turns to is Morpheus, and he's gonna be our 8th driver. Morpheus's first big interaction with Neo was offering him the iconic red and blue pills. So we're gonna play around with this idea for his ability. Dual pill will have a pop-up rotating between the red and the blue pill when activated. Kind of like rolling dice in Mario Party, players have the option to stop this rotation, which then determines the racer's fate. A red pill makes the player immune to obstacles and projectiles for a few seconds with a speed boost, while the blue pill offers a slight speed nerf and they lose control. Since he's the captain of this hovercraft, the Nebuchadnezzar has to make an appearance here. This ship is a very balanced vehicle, making it a solid choice for every course. Weight aside, I could see this being used by players who like the standard Kart. And coming back to the weight, the Nebuchadnezzar has a strong presence on the track, but it navigates just as well as this ship that's from the same Zion fleet. We're finally going to a more lighthearted movie with this charismatic character. Time travel is on the menu as this teen uses a DeLorean time machine to go back to 1955. He f***s up by ruining his parents' first meeting, which means his existence is on the line. Marty McFly is gonna drive in this game as number 9. And spoiler alert, we're gonna have the DeLorean be Marty's vehicle in-game, but let's borrow its power for his ability. I don't think controlling time in this game would make sense for other players' experiences, so let's give Marty the power to open a portal a set distance ahead of him for teleportation. Here's what we got for the DeLorean stats. This vehicle is iconic for its speed, especially when it hits a whopping 88 miles per hour for time travel. The DeLorean is gonna have decent handling, nothing extraordinary though because of its classic car design. We've got another Grand Prix to reveal before the home stretch of drivers. Getting a bit harder now, we're stepping into the Warp Cup. Like its name implies, these courses give players the option to take a warp shortcut back and forth between themed courses. This cup includes racing to survive through the Skynet facility and post-apocalyptic city from the Terminator, choosing your reality in the dystopian world or simulated world from the Matrix, and traveling through the Hill Valley decades, specifically the 1980s and 1950s in Back to the Future. That was the Warp Cup. Now for our final racers. We have a movie known to have a bunch of action scenes on moving vehicles in this desert wasteland. Mad Max takes place in the middle of Bumblefuck, where clans of all walks of life fight over basic resources, with an emphasis on water and food fuel. Our main dude, Max, is one of those guys who isn't a man of many words and instead lets his actions do the talking. He can fight and drive, which is pretty much what you need anyway to survive in this wasteland. We're adding Mad Max as number 10 in the roster. As a nod to his toughness, he'll have a bulk up ability that makes vehicles spin around when there's contact between them. For his vehicle, the one I automatically think of is his modded muscle car, the V8 Interceptor. The Interceptor is one of the faster cars in the game, but because of its size, it'll be harder to get it moving. Since it can take hits pretty well and you can zoom on straightaways, I think this is a pretty good choice for people who are poo-poo at video games. We've been stuck in the past for a bit. Let's make our way to the 90s for this colorful hero. We've got a set of teenage heroes facing off against this evil goop guy who wants to conquer Earth. They lose their powers though and go on a quest to reclaim them to get rid of Mr. Goop. These are the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and to shake things up, let's add the Pink Ranger to our roster as the 11th pick. Since the Pink Ranger's Zord is the pterodactyl, she'll use that as an ability. When activated, the Pink Ranger temporarily transforms into a pterodactyl, giving her the power to fly with a burst of speed for a few seconds. Taking inspiration from this Pink Ranger and Power Rangers Ninja Steel, let's include a hoverboard. The handling is going to be broken on this board, so racers shouldn't have a problem dodging obstacles and attacks. It's also super lightweight, giving it amazing acceleration. You'll get wrecked going against heavy opponents, so use that handling to get yourself out of those sticky situations. For this next character, I don't think you would have asked for them going into this video, but maybe I'll change your mind. This one's a classic children's movie about a boy who goes on a magical train ride to the North Pole. It captures the joy of the holiday season and has a lot of memeable moments.
Turn your head. Now smile a little bit. Perfect.
This conductor plays a central role in guiding the children during their travels. Even though he's technically not the train's operator, it's actually this other dude. Tom Hanks is going to be the 12th driver in this game. Random story, but when I was younger, 3D technology was still new to CGI. So watching this one scene with a ticket flying through the air had everyone shook. And we were all trying to grab it. It was a very wholesome moment. Anyway, to pay homage to that core memory, let's give the conductor a golden ticket ability, which works like your golden mushroom, but he'll also get temporary invincibility when activated. It's a no-brainer what the conductor will use as a cart, so here's the Polar Express train. We're not going to use the whole train though, just the front car. The Polar Express can clearly put in the miles, and for its size, it can whip. But again, it's a big-ass train, so it's gonna take some time to get started. It also has limited handling, but look, it can travel the North Pole, so yeah, it's gonna be pretty good. The Polar Express may not have the most flashy stats, but I'm sure some Japanese racers will still figure out a way to make this build the meta, kind of like the teddy bear or the Wiggler. And to complete the roster, we have another fantasy pick coming for you. Out of all the films for this game, this one scared me the most as a child, and I put the blame on its villain.
I'll get you, my pretty.
We have a young girl from Kansas who's swept away by a tornado to the magical land of Oz. The villain basically wants to steal Dorothy's Louboutins. This is the Wicked Witch of the West. She summons these flying monkeys in the movie to capture Dorothy and her friends, so let's bring her minions in game. The flying monkeys ability sends a group of them toward a targeted racer which messes with their handling for a few seconds. Kinda like a banana peel but without the full spin out. I think it's obvious what the witch's mode of transportation is. Yeah, it's a broomstick. You'll get decent speeds with a quick acceleration, which reflects the witch being able to zip across the skies. Compared to other vehicles in this list, you'll need to be more skilled to get through those tight turns. And while getting hit won't be fun, those jerky movements should be easier to perform. It's time I revealed the last cup. Because I think this is basically the special cup of the group, I have an extra course included. It's the all-terrain cup. For our track list, we have Mad Max's Desert Wasteland, Sandstorms Galore. From the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Planet Phaedos, but more specifically the jungle on that planet. Good luck avoiding those booby traps. Then we have the North Pole from Polar Express, think the struggle of Sherbert Land. And to top it all off, the Yellow Brick Road, which is our version of Rainbow Road with a Wizard of Oz twist. What makes this cup so difficult along with the winding tracks is the weather conditions, which will affect players' visibility, like a blizzard on the North Pole or a sandstorm in Mad Max's desert. While we're on this subject, another cool mode to make things more chaotic in these cups is a survival mode that lasts just one lap, but the track crumbles and disappears shortly after the first racer reaches it. And if you make it to the end, you'll win. I can already imagine the rage brought from this mode.
I am about to break your nose like I did.
And with that, we have our classic movie Mario Kart game. But because there's so many movies to cover, which ones would you add to the list? And if you enjoyed this movie crossover video, here's another one you should watch next.